Calling this meeting to order. My name is BJ Hall. Time is 7:07 p.m. This is the Inland Wetland Commission meeting for the town of Monroe. It is October 12th, 2022, and it is 7:07 p.m. Shall we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take the roll call at this point of the members of the commission and the staff present. Start with myself, BJ Hall, I'm present. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Keith Romano.
Present.
Rick Schultz, Town Planner.
Ryan Kelly.
Secretary.
Secretary.
Yeah.
Eric Lindstrom. Ross Mastroacco.
And on the Zoom?
Clark Gingras.
Very good. And we also have Sarah Stroud.
Here.
Okay. I think that covers everyone. Okay. Before we start, I'll read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. The Inland Wetlands Mission Statement. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetlands and watercourses with the town of Monroe. Our meeting procedure, this is a hybrid meeting. The meeting is being conducted utilizing electronic equipment in compliance with state law, Public Act 21-1. As such, the meeting is being recorded and will be available to the public in compliance with state law. If you are attending remotely, please remember to mute your microphone unless speaking. Anyone participating remotely should state their name and title at the outset of each occasion that you are speaking. All votes taken during which any member of this body are participating remotely shall be taken by roll call unless the vote is unanimous. The chat features will not be utilized nor considered during this meeting. In the normal course of this meeting, we will hear public hearings and other applications. Tonight, we have 3 public hearings and 2 application hearing determinations. Protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a presentation to the commission, during which and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. Please, if you are an applicant, keep your presentations as concise as possible. The commission will then review town, staff, and other independent comments. The meeting will then be open for public comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or to the commission. After any and all comments in opposition and of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. Please keep comments or questions direct, and a time limit of 3 minutes may be imposed. It is not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. Please keep all comments, pro and con, specific to inland wetland related matters. Other applications that do not involve a public hearing will follow in similar format, with the exception there will be no public comment allowed. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chairman, and I'll read the exhibits when you get to the individual.
Make a comment though. There's nothing on here for Tucker Street?
Yeah, 460, the public hearing, 460.
Third public hearing down.
Oh, it's not being looked at as a,
It's a public hearing item.
Public hearing.
okay,
Third on our list here,
We determined it to be a public hearing.
at the last meeting.
okay, oh, all right.
Okay. Any other questions before we proceed? Okay. In that case, we will begin with IWC 2022-12, 754 Main Street. It's a public hearing. We are continuing this hearing from our last meeting. It's for the proposed construction of outdoor storage in the regulated area. It was continued from our 9/14/2022 meeting. Is there someone here to speak for the applicant?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, for the record, we received exhibit number 4, revised plans from Solely Engineering. And exhibit number 5 is the town engineer's report, which you all have present tonight.
Okay.
That is all.
Good evening, Chairman and Commission. I'm Mary Blackburn, representing the applicant. Can you hear me?
Yes. Feel free to go ahead.
Hey, can I share my screen? I just have a PowerPoint with the updated plans that were submitted.
Yes, you may. And we all have copies of the updated plan here. Are you able to share yet?
Yep. It'll be coming shortly.
Yeah.
There you go.
Excellent.
All right. So since the last meeting, I had a site walk with a few members of the commission, and then we've submitted the revised plans, which we tried to address the comments that we heard at the last meeting. And I'll kind of walk you through what we did on those plans. Now, we did also, just as of this afternoon, receive our first set of engineering comments. So I think we're going to ask for some time to review those and then address those further. But I did just want to briefly go over what you did receive already and get your feedback on that. So this is the original aerial that we presented. And I know there were some comments about getting an updated aerial. This was the most updated aerial that I could find. So it does show that there is some outdoor storage happening in the paved areas. There is some additional current outdoor storage in the meadow. And we saw that on the site walk, and then in the lawn area here, and some in the parking area out front as discussed at the last meeting. The new revised submission does capture all of that, and anything that's not in these new proposed areas will be moved into the proposed areas. So I kind of try to simplify the plans here. Everything in the pink dotted line is the proposed outdoor storage that's been revised and reduced from the previous submission. So previously we were proposing 152,308 square feet. This plan now proposes 80,056 square feet of outdoor storage. The tree, and so we reduced it based on where the existing tree line is in this area. Even kind of the tree line's out here, but it's a little bit further in, and then in the southern portion here, we brought it in to more closely follow where the tree line. If you remember previously, it came out to the building setback here, and it was millings. And this area, we had a whole secondary storage area that we're proposing in the woods that's been removed. That's no longer part of the proposal. And we've removed the millings as the commission requested, and we're proposing just a process road base material. We've in this that's the dotted areas, so that would be in here, and then in this little access drive here, and in the center. And we did, map out more clearly where the drives would be to access the outdoor storage. You see here and here. And then, so part of the programming change too was to show where we want to use this road base, and that'll be in the areas where it's not as long-term storage, I guess you would say. So on this side of the road, the drive here, it would remain grass or meadow, and that would be more long-term sort of display storage material that wouldn't get moved as frequently. And everything on the south side of the drive here would be proposed as road base, because it would be moved more frequently, and that's to prevent the issues with mud and erosion. And then in this upper area, same situation, the drive and the interior part of the circle would be proposed as road base, and the area outside the circle, but within the pink, would just be more kind of long-term displays, I guess you could call it. We've removed the boulders and proposed more permanent wetland markers, and instead of every 50 feet, we've put them every 25 feet along the wetland boundaries and in this area along here. And then again, you can just more clearly see all this proposed outdoor storage is on existing paved areas as it previously was. We are including an area in the grassed island in the front here that he'd like to put boulders and as you first drive in. And the other changes, we've added road base for this area that's directly off the driveway in the back. So as I said, we did receive comments from engineering this afternoon, and we quickly reviewed those, and we believe we'll be able to address most of those. I know one of the comments was the town engineer would prefer to see something that's completely paved, but I think as we discussed at the last meeting, we took into account that the commission didn't want to see millings, and we're going to stick with the proposed road base in selective areas, if that's still something that the commission thinks is best. And with that, I can answer any questions that you have.
Very good, thank you. We'll start down at the end of the bar. Commissioner Kelly, any questions?
I don't think I have any questions right now.
All right. Mr. Lindstrom?
No questions at the time.
Mr. Mastrocco?
Mastroraco.
Mastrocco.
We had finished, when Keith and I went and we visited the site, it was a Saturday or Sunday or something, we ended the walkthrough at the bottom part of the plan there. Before that, we were at the back of that parking lot. We were talking about where that light pole was and possibly removed. Remember? Where were we standing at the end of that parking lot?
So there is a light pole. We didn't go back into this area because there's brush, but there was a light pole foundation that was removed in this area, and then there were 2 light pole foundations in this area that were removed. Those were there when the church was using the building or owned the building.
So when we were standing like in the back of the building, we were at the back of the asphalt parking lot. That's about where we were?
Yeah.
So that whole,
Yeah,
those,
and that,
so you guys are thinking of getting rid of all those, the weeds that are in that back area and using that as storage, is that correct?
yeah, and that would be the road base, the 6 inches of process
Okay,
back in this area.
no more questions.
Okay. Commissioner Romano?
Mary, on that picture, can you zoom in? Or is that just a fixed photo? Just to the area that Ross was just talking about. Just to the part where Ross was just talking about.
There we go. Is that?
As close as you can get.
If we can do.
So is that, do we feel like that area was previously processed out, like had road base in it? Or is it like topsoil-y and stuff where it's not going to be structurally sound?
Yeah, as we saw, it was vegetated. When we were out there, there was a pole base. So I believe at some point they were using this. The church that was here before may have been using it as parking or for something that they were lighting. And even in here, it looks like it's not as vegetated as it was when we were out there. But, we're just proposing the road base.
Right. So
the
my point is that I would look at it two different ways. If it was already once prepped and you're going to put something just on top of it, that's a much, less invasive maneuver around the wetlands than if there's 12 inches of topsoil and you guys are going to dig out 12 inches of topsoil and then start laying, you know what I mean? So it would really be helpful. It would really be helpful to know what's there right now. But we should go on the assumption that if there was a light pole there, that it already was processed out, right? And you're just going to, scrape off, the organics, whatnot, that have grown and just top coat it. I think if it ends up having to be more of an excavation, I think we need to, look at it more closely. But that just being said for that area, can you go back to the second page or the other page?
This one?
Yeah, and go up to the spot where you have the circle. Okay, so why not use that whole meadow? Why are you giving us a purple line that's shortening it and that's already been kind of used?
So this is the existing tree line and it follows it on this side where, even if we leave this as meadow and we're storing materials on it, it would increase the impervious,
That becomes an issue. It's too much then?
We're being conservative and assuming that will, and so that's why we're providing a basin to capture that runoff. So
you can't go to the tree line? You can't go to the tree line to there?
Is that the light blue line?
No, the tree, that's the wetland setback, I think.
No. That's the wetland setback, but the tree line kind of roughly follows it.
Yeah.
I mean, we could increase it. We were just trying to reduce it based on your.
Well, as long as if you have the water, treatment capacity, because that pond hasn't changed in size, right?
Right. Yes, we didn't reduce it. We're just.
Why not? That's our area's already got stuff. That's already got stuff in it. It's already flattened out. It's probably firm. I don't see why you wouldn't capture that extra, whatever it is, eighth of an acre, whatever it is. And then and then you put the signs around, continue around with the signage, and then he doesn't have to come back and we don't have a violation. Because it looks, it's so, gets them closer to where we wanted to be.
Yep.
The area is already
We can definitely
cleared.
do that.
Yeah, it's already cleared.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for me.
Okay. Mr. Commissioner Gingras, remote, any questions?
No, all set.
Okay. I'll take that then. I was out there today. I met with Tony Sorge. He walked me around the property. So I understand exactly where all of this is. Couple of questions. If you could take just a couple of minutes, Ms. Blackburn, to talk to us about the drainage basins that seem to be noted in the engineer's comments here.
Yes, so he had asked that we revise all the drainage calculations, and we just hadn't done that yet because, again, we were reducing everything, so it was conservative. But now that we've received his comments and can address other things, that's part of something we'd like to revise and submit an updated grading and drainage plan. We may add a basin or a swale in this area just to capture part of this area does drain towards here, towards this area, this direction rather than this basin. So we may just swale that to this proposed basin.
Okay.
So that's part of something we'd like to do in our response. And same thing down here, we'll be cutting back this grading to now reflect the reduced area.
Wanted to extend that, change the plan.
And this basin may actually get smaller because again, we were.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Any questions from the public?
The bottom of the basin and that lower, the bottom of that basin, how is that compared to like where the wetlands, the water body is? They can't siphon off
Yeah,
into it,
we,
right?
we have a spillway, and I believe that was one of Scott's comments as well, was that we had some spot elevations in the basin that were incorrectly labeled. So it appeared that this was actually higher. But yes, this is all meant to collect this area and then spill an outlet into the wetland.
No more questions.
Okay. I think, well, let me ask this. Are you interested in expanding that area at the top? So if.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Go ahead.
In here?
Yes.
Yes, I think he would be interested in that.
If that's the case, and you wanted to review and respond to the engineer's comments, I think we need to just hold this over one more time. I think our questions have pretty well been answered.
Okay.
So if that's, I see no reason to try to bring this to a conclusion.
You know, the full round of public participation.
Well, we just,
You said anybody probably is a pro for general nature.
oh, I see. Oh,
Pro against, there's no one here, but I'm just saying.
okay. Yeah. I think anybody had a chance.
Right.
So let's
Online.
put this, we are going to be meeting on the 26th to hear more on the Turkey Roost Road. So if you want to have that ready for our next meeting in 2 weeks, that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll get that in as soon as we can.
Very good. This is continued till the next
Thank you.
meeting.
Thank you.
IWC 2022-13, 141 and 201 Turkey Roost Road. Construction of 90 single-family detached dwellings served by 5,570 linear feet of new roadway. This is continued from 9/14. Do you have some items to enter into the record?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, really the purpose of tonight is to state the two exhibits that I'm referring to for the record. First one is the 65-day extension that the commission requested for, and they acknowledged at the last meeting. We have received that letter of authorization. And the next document is from the Southwest Conservation District. And they have provided a document dated October 11th, addressed to the chairman. It's many pages long, and essentially they are recommending that this commission proceed with hiring a consultant, which you made that determination at the opening of the hearing, and that they will be assisting the commission as they have in the past. So you do, all the members have the copy of the Southwest Conservation District.
And that is also posted on the website for the town. So anyone desiring to read it, it's quite informational. And as far as the consultant, under general discussion later, we will cover that matter of the consultant to be hired.
That is all for tonight on that item.
Okay, so we will continue this hearing until 10:26. That brings us to IWC 2022-10, 467 to 485 Pepper Street, proposed construction of outdoor storage in the regulated area. We have someone speaking for the applicant.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I need to read the legal. This is a new item.
Very good.
Inland Wetlands Commission, Monroe, Connecticut, notice of public hearing to be held October 12th, 2022. Regarding IWC 2022-10, 467 and 45 Pepper Street, proposed site development activities in the regulated area and wetlands remediation. And this was published on September 28th and October 5th. And also, Mr. Chairman, the following exhibits have been provided. And they are Exhibit 1, engineering comments, which the commission members have a copy. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Hall, should I grab,
I was going to say, if someone, I would yell, but that would be pretty rude. Okay, so those comments were dated, the engineering comments from October 4th, is that the?
Yes.
Okay. Can we give
no worries.
Mr. Romano just a moment? All right. See?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chris Pulowski on behalf of the applicant, Solar Engineering. Office is located at 501 Main Street here in Monroe. Before we start, I do have some paperwork here for Rick. It's the abutter notices that we notified and posted the sign for public hearing. So Rick, if you wouldn't mind sharing my screen so all those at home can watch. Thank you. All right, so we are here for an inland wetlands permit on behalf of the applicant for 467 and 485 Pepper Street. Property is located near the Monroe Newtown border to the north of town. You'll see on the map here, you've got Route 25 running north south, and then you take out Pepper Street, and it's located pretty much dead center in Pepper Street, probably less than a mile from the Monroe Newtown border. So zooming in here a little bit, you see the two properties, 467 and 485 Pepper. And this is an aerial from 2018. I apologize that I don't have a newer one, but I did want to give a little bit of history on the project. So back in 2017, 2018, this commission approved the permit for 485 Pepper. That is the larger piece that you see here to the north. That permit was for a materials yard, construction yard, if you will, with an enclosed processing facility. That facility, a bulk building permit was issued, it was constructed, it is operational. Our client is also the road contractor for 485 Pepper with the town. So they've been using the yard as a staging area and also doing the road work out of the site. Go ahead.
Can you clarify constructed? Because I never saw a building there.
Correct. So the building has not been completed, but the site is, I guess, under construction would be a better term, per se. So they have cleared it out. They have moved their equipment there. They constructed the retaining wall in the back, which I'll get into in a minute, and things of that nature. But you're correct. They have not constructed the building yet. And the reason for that is as they were laying out the site, they were realizing they were fairly constrained, and our client then went ahead and purchased the property to the south. That is 467 Pepper, which is what you see right here, the more rectangular shape, if you will. So also about 2 years ago, I want to say maybe a year and a half ago, there was a violation issued for the site. While they were constructing the retaining wall, some silt had washed into the wetlands. On July 5th or 7th, don't quote me on the exact date of this year, we did submit an administrative application to the town of Monroe, and we worked with now former wetlands agent Ron Byatt to correct that violation. So they went into the area that was impacted, removed the silt, they reestablished silt fence, and then they proceeded to as of Saturday, it wasn't seeded yet, but this week they did seed the area with inland wet mix. So we're hoping that that area will return, and thus we have resolved that violation. So now we are before you for a new application. Again, it's for an inland wetland permit. On the next slide here, you'll see the wetlands on the site. So they're located to the rear of the property. You have Pepper Street running north-south here. The current operation, if you will, is located in this general vicinity. And then we have a large wetland body that is located to the rear of the property or the west. And then it is also a small wetland area of about 1,700 square feet in size, located right along the northern property border. So before I talk about the proposed application, we did.
you
go ahead. Sorry.
To that last slide, just one quick question there. The wetland at the top of the property, does that continue into the neighboring property? Is that actually a larger wetland?
I'm not sure. I know there is a building directly off the screen to the north here. Our wetland scientists usually take a look at that, but there was no flags that we located, but maybe it does extend a little bit, but there's not a large area that's extending deep into that property.
It's gotta be going the other way too, because the two lines stop.
Correct. So this is actually the Monroe Rail Trail. So I don't know what occurred when they constructed that, but I have to imagine at some point this wetland probably extended. This rail trail has been around for a number of years now, but yeah, no, I would probably say that's a fair statement.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
You got it. So before I continue with the site plan, this plan before you is slightly different than the plans that you have in front of you. I do have copies for you all right now. If you wouldn't mind passing these out. We did receive comments recently from Scott Chasson, town engineer, and then also we did have a site walk on Saturday. Some things that were raised in the site walk included minimizing the wetland impact, and rearranging the outdoor storage and keeping the site drive to the rear as is. So this plan before you, excuse me, reflects those changes. We'll get into it in just a minute. But the biggest thing in the plan that is before you is there is no longer a wetland impact. So instead of alleviating, instead of impacting 1,700 square feet of this little wetland pocket along the northern side, and then creating 5,200 square feet over here, we are now no longer impacting that wetland area and instead are maintaining the existing rear site access drive. So I'll get into that in a second. I do want to go over the project. So the project is for a 9,000 square foot enclosed crushing facility here. They're do material processing, so they'll bring in large aggregate and crush it down into smaller pieces. This process takes place internally due to noise and other factors. So all that equipment will be located in this building, which is located entirely on 467 Pepper Street. And again, this is outside of the regulated or the upland review area. So there'll be two site entrances, one along the northern portion of the site on 485 Pepper Street shown here, and then one along the southern portion of the site, which is 467 Pepper Street shown here. There will be various outdoor storage bins that you see scattered throughout the site, a large outdoor storage area here, and then a outdoor storage area in the rear, as well as the, we propose to maintain the existing office, if you will. It's a small one-story building that they're currently using and was approved in the previous application 3-4 years ago. So the premise of the operation is that they come in here with their material. It is dumped off and then loaded into this facility where it's crushed and then placed into the bins that you see scattered here. So the trucks will come in, dump the material in this general vicinity or this general vicinity, and then they'll go through the building, if you will. The trucks need to get weighed, so you'll see a scale house and a scale shown on 467 Pepper Street. So the majority of the bins on the site in this area and up on the higher elevation, which I'll get into in a second, are going to be for aggregate storage. So that is your stone, your rock, dirt, things of that nature. And then the outdoor storage areas, again, that you see in the back here, and then related in the front, will be used for your typical construction items. They are site contractors, so that'll be like catch basins, pipe, other like traffic cones, things of that nature, like hard goods, if you will. So there won't be any, they're not going to be storing aggregate in these fenced-in areas, if you will. So I'll get a little bit more into the dust and everything, control measures that we have on site, but I did want to say that all the bins, the aggregate bins, will be equipped with sprinklers. And the enclosed processing facility will also have sprinklers and dust control measures. So the wetlands, again, as I mentioned before, are here, the northern portion of the site, and then the large pocket, which encompasses both 485 and 467, located to the rear. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next page here because I do want to show the grades on the site. So the way we designed this application is to really keep the processing and construction yard area up on top. So this general vicinity is about 15 to 20 feet higher than the wetland elevation down here. And there is a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 slope that grades up to a retaining wall that extends across the entire rear portion of the site. So as part of 485 Pepper Street's previous approval, this retaining wall has been constructed from this point shown here all the way to about this point as well. It's about 15 to 20 feet in height, depending on where you are. Those who went on the site walk on Saturday saw this retaining wall out in the field. So again,
How high are the bins at the back?
the bins will be between 6 to 8 feet, maybe 3 or 4 Mafia block courses high.
Okay.
That's how they're intended to be constructed. So Mafia blocks are 2 by 4 feet long. So I'd say 3 or 4 courses around the bins, and they're all going to be, again, used for aggregate storage. So.
Okay, very good.
So again, the idea is to keep the majority of the work and construction yard separated substantially. I mean, we have about 50 to 60 feet from in this area between the edge of the wetlands and the top of the retaining wall. And again, it's almost like a no access zone, if you will. So everyone stays up here with the loaders and the construction equipment and can't, it prevents any further potential wetland impacts from happening. Now we do, the plan here, I did not get a chance to update the grading plan. We will be coming to you guys with a completely revised plan set that addresses any comments you may have and Scott, the town engineer's comments. But with the revised site plan, this area now is just an existing drive down to an outdoor storage out here that they're going to be using sparingly. So they'll be keeping like their longer term items like Connex boxes and traffic cones and catch basin structures that they use like less frequently, if you will. Whereas the materials yard or construction yard will be active every day, more frequently used. So this area in the rear here won't be used as actively as will this area up on top of the hill, if you will.
And the access to that lower area would be by heavy equipment just to move those pieces?
Precisely, yes.
There's no way you'd get a tractor trailer down there?
No, the way it's intended is just to move those pieces exactly how you stated down in the back there. So there are a series of stormwater measures on site that we've placed. So we do have 2 stormwater quality basins. The smaller one is located to the rear of the wetlands right here, which kind of handles just this general area, if you will. We have a much larger basin located in the southwest corner of the site, which will handle all of the associated stormwater runoff from the upper yard area. All of the silt sacks, or all the catch basins, are going to be placed with the permanent silt sacks. We also have a series of hydrodynamic separators, and we also have a small underground retention system located here. For the record, I would like to state that this plan has been designed in accordance with the 2004 Connecticut Stormwater Manual. So we do have a number of water quality measures in place. So we will be revising the plans here to include a sediment forebay for both of these basins. I mentioned before, we do have hydrodynamic separators as well as permanent silt sacks in all the catch basins. The surfaces on this construction yard are going to be asphalt millings in and around the processing building here, where we are proposing to pave this section in and around the parking, and then the outdoor storage area here will be concrete, whereas the outdoor storage area down the back here will be gravel. So quickly, I do want to run through the storage and sediment control measures on the site. So both entrances will have anti-tracking pad construction entrances. We also will have a series of sediment traps. Those are located in the lowest lying areas of the site to the rear. So you see one here, you see one here, you also see one in the back here. We have a series of diversion swales which will catch any water while construction is ongoing and direct that water towards the sediment traps. Again, this one will now be removed since we are no longer impacting this small wetland area to the north. And then surrounding the wetland pockets, we do have a row of silt fence with a rail backing to ensure that nothing runs off into those areas during construction. And the construction process will be setting this area up first and extending this retaining wall all the way down and around the back here. Excuse me. And so that silt fence will be set and they'll impact this area and do this grading and then move up into the upper elevation pad. And then this will pretty much be stabilized and won't be touched in the future. We also have a access gate here, which will be permanent so that they can access this large stormwater basin and maintain it in the future. The utilities on site are pretty straightforward. Most of the ones to the existing office are already in, but we will be running an additional electric and water lines out to the processing facility. And then there will be a series of smaller water lines running to all these bins throughout the site to handle the sprinklers that will be controlling the dust from the aggregate processing operation. We also have a very small septic system that's being proposed in this area. The site is served by public water, so there is no well currently. In terms of landscaping, the site is in an industrial district, so there are very strict planting requirements that we must abide by. So all along the front here, you're going to see a 50-foot heavily planted landscaping buffer to the street. That's all these trees and shrubs placed in here. And then to the rear, we have another 50-foot landscaping buffer up against the rail trail. So this will be to screen the site from anyone who's using the trail. And then again, from the road, anyone who's driving, the site will kind of be, boxed in with trees and plants and shrubs, if you will. And then these sides of the site are both higher in grade, so the site's will kind of be down, if you will. This is approximately 6 to 8 feet higher on this side than is this pad elevation. And then we have another 6 to 8 feet on this side of the site than this entire pad elevation. So the site will be screened fairly well from the surrounding properties and the road frontage. In the rear, along the wetlands, we do have some substantial buffer plantings. And again, the whole idea is that they go and complete this grading, install these plantings, and build retaining wall. And then this area is untouched for years to come. They have no intent of going behind the retaining wall once it's been constructed, if you will. And all of the outdoor storage areas, if I didn't point out before, are enclosed. So while they're accessing this area in the back here, they won't be, they won't be pushing through the fence and extending into the basin or the wetlands in this general vicinity. And with that, I would like to open it up for any questions that you guys may have.
Okay, why don't we start on the Zoom? Commissioner Gingrich, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Very good. Then we'll start down with Commissioner Kelly.
The proposed septic, so the intention is not to construct that now, you're just seeking approval around that at this point? Is that, or do you intend on that
So there is an existing septic that's located, so the office was an existing residence back on the prior approval, and then it was converted to an office, and there is an existing septic system that is out there, and then we're going to be upgrading it and bringing it up to capacity for the office use, if you will. So it hasn't been installed yet, but it is part of this application. But again, it's located out by the street front here, if you will. Yeah, this area. Sorry, I apologize. It's hard to see. I can bring the plans up and zoom in if you'd like.
You said that's where the existing septic is and that you'd just be upgrading and I apologize, I missed that.
No, so we will be installing.
I think that's it for me for right now.
Mr. Lindstrom? What are the bases of the storage bins? It's not clearly indicated.
Yeah, so they will not there won't be any base, but there's gonna be material in them at all times. So like some will be stone, some will be dirt, some will be processed material, which is stone and dirt mixed. They won't be paved, if you will, because there's always going to be various material that's being used in and out of the bins.
Okay. Mr. Mastracco?
There's so many projects that have come through here since I've been on the wetlands. None of us have ever really liked millings. So, I mean, does anybody else feel uncomfortable with that? The fact that it's asphalt, it's oil based.
One of my questions, and address that.
All right, okay.
So we can come back.
I'm good.
If I may just respond, so millings were recently added by planning and zoning as an acceptable finished grade. We do want to use millings in this area because we want to be able to collect the stormwater and not have big ruts in the site, if you will. So if we leave it as dirt, it's going to be one, dusty, and two, the stormwater runoff will be hard to keep those catch basins clean.
Or gravel.
We can look at gravel as an option if you are inclined to have us do so.
You want to jump in?
Okay, so about the gravel, the issue with the gravel is the gravel will continue and the weight of the loaders will continue to degrade and crush and create fines. That could become a runoff problem. So gravel doesn't really work in that situation. Millings is good because if they do get on it, it's easy to repair it from heavy loads or impacts, whatever. They can fill the hole back in, they can compact it, and then they're back to the. So let me get to my questions. 16 bins. That's a lot of different products. You have a list?
I do not have a list, but it's going to be 3/4 stone, 1.25 stone process. I'd be happy to provide you with one topsoil.
Well, again, topsoil. How are they doing topsoil here? It's a crushing plant. So they're gonna bring a topsoil screener in from time to time and screen topsoil?
The screening equipment is located in the building, exactly what they, I can ask our client what they plan on.
Okay, but that's not, these indoor crushing units don't
Correct.
have a topsoil capability unless they're gonna run through a jaw crusher first, which I've never heard anybody do.
Right.
So if the screening has to be in the building, there's not gonna be a topsoil bin unless it's an import of screen topsoil, but this isn't set up to be a retail re-wholesaling yard, right?
I believe that was the original approval. It was Monroe Recycling and Aggregates.
I understand that. My question is that they're recycling and then they're importing material.
Correct.
Recycling it and then selling different products.
Correct.
But they're not like bringing in mulch and having a mulch bin. So this isn't like
there'll be no mulch.
a retail yard. So if they're hauling in topsoil and there's no indication of screening topsoil here, then there can't be a topsoil bin. So I think we should have a list
Okay.
of what all is going in these 16 bins, that it's not being, not properly used.
Understood.
The dust control inside the building, how is that going to be collected and dealt with?
I will have to refer to our architect for that. They will be submitting to planning and zoning in the next week here or so. But I know there will probably be sprinklers or whatnot, which will go to a floor drainer. I have to imagine something of that nature.
It has to be collected. There's a
Right.
lot of fines.
Yeah, a lot of the, or all of the catch basins on site are going to have permanent silt sacks. We also have a number of hydrodynamic separators, and then we will be putting, they're not shown on these plans, but in the revised plans, we'll have 7-4 bays in all the basins. So before it goes to the basin, there'll be a smaller 7-4 bay, which will have to be cleaned out from time to time. So that's our goal, to capture all of that sediment that may enter the system.
Can you throw up the plan that shows the catch basins again?
Or is that the one?
That is this one here. I can zoom in. Hang on one second.
How?
So these.
Okay, so my question is, so you have a back pitch to that, so where that access is to get down to maintain the basin?
Correct.
You have a back pitch for an area going to that catch basin, so the stuff can't flow out that gate and into the.
So this.
So basically, I'm asking, is there a, right there, is there a high point?
This is a high point. That's the grade you see. So this.
It's gonna keep.
Correct. This catch basin right here is low. So this goes, it's almost like you have to go up and then back down, if you will. So everything is contained within this, and it's the same thing on this side. We have a high point here, and then this is higher up here, and this is paved, and then everything bowls, if you will, to the center here. So this point is low, this point is low. We have another low point here, and then another low point in the back. So everything is contained within the construction yard, if you will. So nothing is going to be escaping and running
That's
down
the bins. Now what happens if the bins work to, so the bins are all pitched out towards the,
2%, yes.
okay, out to the catch basins?
They're all, yeah, so like on this.
What about the import bin? The import material bin? The same thing, it's gonna be,
Like, so for example, these bins that you see on the screen right
those are
here.
finished product bins, the import material bin.
Well, these will be the import bins. They're higher in the back and they're gonna come down this
I thought
way.
you said the area right here.
This is where
bigger
the-
square is the import material, where the galleries are.
Over here?
Yeah, what's that?
That's where they have, yeah, that's where they have the import material there. Correct.
So the import material's there, then those other 4 bins are finished product bins.
This is where, well, so they bring in, for example, a mixed stone dirt. They first have to sort that out, and that's where these are, and then this is gonna be loaded through the crushing screening building. If that makes any sense. So someone comes in, spins around, dumps here, that goes into these 3 bins depending on whatever, however they sort it.
How does it get from the import area to those other bins?
There's an excavator or a loader here that's loading, this is gonna be loaded.
From that side into the bin. So you're saying
Oh, so on the
that
other
that's import material, it's getting sorted
Correct.
mechanically somehow.
Correct.
But
There's crushers, screeners, and then there's telestackers that are going to sort the material once it comes out this side.
hold on, you're not where I'm at. I'm at the import bin that you showed me.
Yeah.
Right there. And you're saying that the store, it's gonna get so pre-sorted there and go into those 3 other bins.
Correct.
So asphalt, dirt, concrete, rock, something like that.
Exactly, yes.
Right. So how is it getting from there to the other side? Is it an excavator or is there a screening plant going in there?
I will have to ask our client exactly how they're going to be.
Okay. And then the other, so when you determine what the bins are on the other 4 bins, that'll figure that part of it out. Okay, so my question is, if there's a pile of dirt or fill, whatever, in this import bin, and where's the rainwater? How's it going? Is it headed?
So this is high, and then it runs down here to the low spot.
Okay, so it's got an uphill going towards the retaining wall.
Correct, so it's uphill here and it's uphill here.
Okay, got it. All right.
Sorry.
Look at the dust inside the plant. How are they treating that path down to the lower storage area?
So right now, I believe so this is, again, what we originally proposed. But the plans I just showed you guys today would show this area. This path right here, which is existing, as I believe, rolled asphalt millings at this point.
Pretty steep.
Correct. I'm, they're using heavy loaders and they seem to.
My feeling on this is that that's one thing that maybe should not be acceptable.
One of the things we noticed on the site visit when we were in that specific area was noted, because it is quite steep. And the three of us who were out there, including Jim Stewart and Eric and myself, we felt it was better to keep it where it is today than the original plan was to replace this wetland. So it is steep, but no, what would you call it, standard normal trucks would be going up and down that.
Correct. It would just be heavy equipment loaders,
It is steep.
but it is stabilized.
It's also right there smack in the middle of all the wetlands.
So we are proposing Jersey barriers on this plan on the side so that there will only be a traveled path, if you will.
Let me check with Mr. Schultz here. This was going to keep it on this path was going to require a variance or approval from the engineer or P and Z?
Yes, that's correct.
And is that
No, that's, we're going to be discussing the same issue,
okay,
the P and Z.
okay.
With issues.
So
Well, the whole proposal. This is a revised plan.
Right.
to whether to move in and reclaim wetlands or to leave it where it is and how to leave it.
I feel it's kind of, we're getting a lot out of the site.
Seems like to have this path with that steep grade and then this other area in between the two wetlands pockets. Like trying to find every last little piece that we could use. I mean, it's their, right to attempt, but I don't know.
So you're,
I haven't seen it, but I could tell by looking at the grade lines that it's quite down in a hole. And, they're kind of like tucking it in to all this stuff. It's just, it seems a little aggressive as far as site usage. But that's just my opinion.
your suggestion would be then to eliminate this whole section.
I mean, I think it's something to consider,
Okay, that's,
just throwing it out there. Just,
Yeah.
it's,
The wetlands is 20 feet away from that Jersey barrier.
yeah.
Hey, the area is currently being used for storage. I know the commissioners who were out there saw it. And
As an approved use?
I'm not quite sure.
No, that's a negative.
Not,
That's not a.
not improved, no.
yeah.
But the area is stabilized and they would only be going back there, infrequently, if you will.
Yeah, but what's the water control, what's the control of, over here you got all the dynamic separators, oil leaks out of the machine, something like that. It's all supposed to be collected and going into this thing, and this is just wide open.
So this area is going to be gravel and they're not going to be doing any aggregate processing back here. So it's just a loader going down.
Yeah, well, the loader has a,
Yeah, well, the water is being directed to the stormwater quality basin that's there that does have sediment, that will have a sediment forebay in the revised plans.
just making a comment that,
Well, the comment we had to follow along with multiple options here is that we did not like at all moving a road over there and relocating wetlands over here.
yeah.
So it looks like all solutions are suboptimal in this.
All right, well, that was my last thing.
No, it's a reasonable question. Well, we should allow it or not. It was very steep from the top down. Jersey barriers were down the side here, which seemed to do a pretty good job. But again, like as you said, they're right next to the wetland. Okay, well, should we leave that open items there? No
Well, it's all just
optimal
discussion,
solution.
just things
Right.
to discuss. They're
Exactly.
just throwing it out there, seeing what kind of response the engineers have. Good. We asked some questions that they can't answer tonight.
Right. And Rick, Scott has not yet, or the town engineer has not yet reviewed the proposed change here?
No.
Is he still reviewing plans?
Yep.
So we have to table that issue at this point, but I think you hear, Rick, that we have multiple views here. Any thoughts to improve on that would be appreciated.
Understood, thank you. So we will be revising the plans and responding to your comments and to Scott's, hopefully by the end of this week, and then anticipation of the meeting in 2 weeks. So,
Very good. Very good. Any further questions, gentlemen?
How much of the wall is already built?
so the wall is built from this point right here, all the way down and around to right where this patch kind of comes over. And that was again part of the previous approval.
It's when you're down underneath, it's a very tall wall. So now there was a roadway or a path, let's call it.
Right.
Along the bottom. That would be used to construct the continuation of the wall?
Correct. Yes.
And then it would be closed off?
Exactly.
Okay.
Segmented wall or there's a mafia block?
It's some is poured concrete and some is mafia block, the variation, depending on. I apologize, not my expertise in terms of.
It's not pretty. Not pretty, but it appears to be solid. I don't know if we need to look at that any further for it to go over.
Do the frogs like it?
The frogs like.
Yeah, if I lived there. So, do you have another question?
My question, did we, wasn't there violations?
Yes. There's an existing cease and desist order.
The violation on the new piece
Yes.
that doesn't,
That's going to be addressed with at P and Z.
okay, nothing to do with us.
Right.
There was the violation
Oh, for the
runoff.
the runoff, right?
Okay, so there wasn't a wetlands violation.
You have the infiltration,
The violation.
right?
Okay, all right, cool.
Okay, so I was a little confused as you were talking about the intake side. The 4 bins in the lower left there,
Yes.
those are unprocessed material as well as the 3?
Correct. So if on the truck, if you will, I'll come in, this way or from the other entrance. I'll come up to this area, I'll swing around, and I'm not sure if you're going to come in here to start or to there, but regardless, there will be importing involved in this area.
Okay.
And then the material will be transferred through the building and then processed. And then there's going to be a telestacker, which is like a big conveyor belt that will place the material in these finished bins on this side.
Right. It was just those 4 I had confused in the conversation.
It looks like
So this area is 6 feet higher than the grade down here, 5 to 6 feet higher. So that's why these bins are facing this way because they're on a lower elevation and you kind of come down the site through this ramp right here.
So come around and load them, okay.
So what's a material sorting pile?
That's what's going to come out of the crushing equipment.
So the conveyors are gonna come out the building in those 4 locations and dump it on the ground.
Correct.
And they're gonna scoop it up and put it in the bins.
Yes, or telestack into the bins or the conveyor belt into the bins.
Okay, so my opinion is, unless it can't be telestacked because they'll never be able to get the stuff out of the bins. Someone shows up to buy it.
Well, I assume I'm assuming here, but they.
And 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 will be blocked off by the telestack.
Correct, but if they load those one day, then they move on, and then I'm sorry, I apologize, I don't exactly
I'm
know
just thinking-
yeah.
I know this industry, so I kind of know what's going to happen. So my thought is that these areas that the material is going to land should be concrete. Because
Concrete floor?
Yeah, because they're just going to tear up. No one's that good that they're not going to keep. Eventually they're going to have an issue because they're going to start contaminating the millings into these things, and they're going to want to do it, I'm sure. Throw it back to your client, right? Because if those are piles of land on the ground, right? I don't know how much that changes the plan, but I don't see that being millings.
From a stormwater perspective, these are both the highest curve numbers, which are using our calculations, so there would be no it wouldn't change the size of anything. We already designed for the maximum extent, conservative analysis, if you will. So I will ask our client. I'm not sure what their preference is at this point, but I could definitely ask them if they'd be willing to change. So you're essentially talking about changing this area where the material lands to concrete or would asphalt.
Otherwise, you're just gonna keep scraping and push it. As it is, there's the previous applicant approval, there was required a sweeper to stay on site.
This application will have that as well. It's on the design plans. As I know.
Okay, but they work okay on millings, but more better on asphalt, concrete.
Gotcha.
But there's always going to be, is there an overlay to the catch basins?
So the catch basins.
Again, there's a bunch of open questions to my discussion now and being like, what's going to keep them from pushing those piles, or at least that one pile to the, by bin 8, into the catch basin right there?
Right here?
Yeah. Like, if you're saying, if these things are landing in the ground, on those piles, and they come in with a loader, try to scoop it up and get it from different sides, they're going to push it, what's going to protect that catch basin?
So they're not going to be placing it right on top of the catch basin.
Not on top of it. What I'm trying to say is that
I understand.
guys want to scoop up the pile. And then the other thing too is, okay, so here's the other question. Because I think it all kind of ties together, right? As to how this property is going to be used and what possible problems they're going to have. If those are the actual piles, how do they load trucks that are taken out of bin 8? Bin 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So if there's some storage in bin 12 and now there's 2 conveyors coming out in piles right there.
So I believe that the trucks will be able to navigate around the building.
Can you identify yourself, please?
I am. I'm going to do that. For the record, my name is Robert Pryor, professional engineer, land surveyor with Solely Engineering. I'm letting Chris do most of the talking tonight because as you can hear, I'm not feeling too well. But so I'm going to try to do a little bit of clarification on some of the operations, hopefully, that maybe will address some of the questions for you.
Thank you.
So, the reason that there's so many bins, we talked about so there's so many bins for the processed material. It's not because you have that many different processed materials. But you have materials that you're loading into, and you're having bins that you're selling out of. So you may have 2 or 3 bins that have the same kind of materials. You're always selling out of one, and you're loading into the other ones. So that's why you have so many bins. It's not that you have that many materials. It's that you're, like Chris was discussing, you're going to be loading bins in these bottom corners as you process it. You may move that material up to selling bins, to the bins you're selling out of on a different part of the site. So that's one of the reasons that there's so many bins. So it's not so that we have that many different kinds of materials. It's just that you're going to have multiple bins filled with the same material because some bins are obviously going to be better for selling out of, and some bins are going to be better for just kind of sorting and holding until they're ready for sale. The area up on top, and that's the intake part of the yard. So you've got the 4 large bins, right? And so those bins are designed so that the trucks bringing the sort of the unsorted, unprocessed material into the site can dump the material into those larger bins. And now you have a certain reservoir of area where trucks are coming in and you have a place to put all that material. The sorting will happen in front of those bins where they're picking out the different things and trying to pre-sort the material before it goes into the processing building. Where Chris was talking about those 3 bins that sort of faced in the middle of the site that face the building, those are set at a lower elevation so that you can basically either load the pre-sorted material into trucks and back it on top of those and then dump into those bins. That's why they're lower. Or they can be loaded with a loader into those bins, or they can also, if you've got material that didn't need to be pre-sorted directly from, you can have trucks that would back up to that and dump directly into those bins. So I think that's kind of I think that's kind of more of the operational, that hopefully that's a little bit, gives you a little more clarity on how that will work. I certainly can appreciate Mr. Amato's comment about the storage down at the bottom, that area. Here's what we think we're kind of up against here with this particular operator. If he doesn't have enough room to operate in a way that he can store his stuff in a reasonable way, things are going to go wrong out here. And so we're trying to give him as much room as he can have so he can reasonably operate on the site. He's obviously, it's a bit of a challenging site to work with. It obviously has the wetland resource on it that sort of takes up a lot of the space. So we're just trying to give him as much room to
And there's a
reasonably operate out
comment
there.
what you just said, since you brought it up. That's why I'm trying to visualize how everything's gonna operate. And then it just poses another question. What are those bins made out of?
Those are all mafia block.
And how do we know those mafia blocks are gonna get pushed over if they try to overfill those bins and fall into the wetlands?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to give this thing. You can't base an approval on what you think that an operator won't fail.
But we could
won't operate
also
correctly.
require that be not so easy to topple over. There's a landscape yard that I supply to, and they've got 1 yard loaders, and they can push their walls over, with two little tiny machines. This is going to have a 4 or 5 yard loader minimum. So he starts pushing, stockpiling those things. If those are just mafia block walls.
Yeah, I mean, I've done quite a few of these, and that's the typical methodology.
Yeah, but it's what, how high? 14 feet, and it's over wetlands?
Yeah, I don't know, I don't think the bins.
The bins are not 14 feet high. The
No,
wall
the
is.
wall.
The wall is
The wall, so
sizable.
it's a large fall down. Right, so.
And it would it'd be an additional slope beyond that, as we saw in the other one.
Right, so that's one of the reasons why we want to know what's happening in each one of these things, because.
Yeah, no, I get it. We can give you that information. I'm just trying to clarify the thought that
I
there was.
appreciate it. I'm just saying that we have to get a full idea of what's happening here and all the potential things that can go wrong. And how that's going to be handled.
Equipment maintenance building, fuel storage for this equipment.
Yeah, it's another thing. Is it showing fuel storage? They used to have, I thought it was on the old plan.
There is fuel storage there today, right at the front of the property?
We are not showing fuel storage at this point, but there is a dumpster pad. I don't know how much they'll need a dumpster, so I imagine it'll be somewhere in that vicinity in the front of the building. So we could put that in revised plans, and again, that would be located substantially far outside of the regulated area and away from everything.
I think the maintenance stuff will probably be inside that building. 9,000 square feet is a big building.
Equipment maintenance, like changing fuel, changing oil and equipment, greasing stuff.
They're
and all
probably
that.
going to do it mobile. I mean, they're going to just bring a service truck up there. It's only going to be 2 or 3 machines there.
So Ross, you had raised the issue of the asphalt millings.
Yeah, it sounds like planning and zoning had said it's okay.
So, okay.
There's
So
nothing we can do about it, right?
we'll defer to them then on
Yeah,
that.
he thinks it's comfortable. So.
I just worry about where these conveyors where they'll start to dig it up, they'll get mixed in with the product. Now there's an issue.
We're going to ask the applicant what his procedure is.
Right.
He may have a proprietary way he does it. I don't know.
Right, exactly. That's why I want to know what his operation methods are going to be to make sure that this is all going to stand up to how he's going to, operate the site.
Reasonable question.
And the area on outdoor storage, as you mentioned, that if he didn't have enough space, well, that's an easy space down there to abuse and to move things farther along and be right into the wetlands area there. So your comment didn't give us any more confidence that that was a safe space.
Yeah, I'm just, we know that he's operating there and what he's done, what the client has done. The applicant has obviously doesn't have permission to do what he's doing there now. We're trying to formalize what he's doing out there by asking permission for him to do what he's already doing. We get it, we understand. We understand the concerns of the commission for sure.
If there was some barriers that could be put in down here to prevent them from going farther to the right of the property.
I think that's a good idea.
I think if I remember, there's a large berm behind it before you get to the trail. So that seems like it's a fairly firm backdrop, but
We could certainly, we could either, I mean, it's a little bit challenging because the normal things we would put, right, we could, a guy with machinery can move, but we could certainly put something there that would be, a permanent, some kind of a permanent barrier, but it's just.
something, that is a concern, even no matter what's decided on the path to get down there, that's still a concern.
We'll look into revising the plan to include something in that. I just would like to point out that Scott's line will require us to provide access to this basin. So there may be a gate or something of that nature in this area so they can still access that stormwater basin. But it'd be a very good suggestion. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Something, keep the kids penned in. Any other questions here for us tonight?
Portion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Yes. So the commission is finished with their questions. We're open for public comment. Any comments pro, remote, or if you're remote, is everyone muted? You can see if there's any comments remote. Anyone locally pro? Anyone locally against? Anyone with comments of a general nature? No comments heard. I think we'll move on.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call for a recess.
Recess?
Yeah.
How long? A minute?
Yeah.
Okay, audio is back on, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. We have application hearing determinations now. We have two new applications before us. IWC 2022-14, 207 Spring Hill Road, proposed development of industrial warehouse, associated driveway, lots, drainage, and utilities. Okay. Is there anyone here that will speak to that before we have our discussion? Anyone remote that wants to speak to 207 Spring Hill Road? Okay. I did a drive-by the other day, a very narrow entrance to it up right where the Jehovah's Witnesses, between the Jehovah's Witnesses and the building next door, very narrow, it goes up.
I've seen that. Road.
Yeah.
On the other side, not on the side that the Cutler's Farm is past that, down closer towards the waste center.
Cutler's Farm comes down here.
Jehovah's Witness is right on the corner.
Right.
And this is literally, you go into their parking lot and
Same parking.
the challenge I see is that the proposed building on that site is, there's a four or five unit small building at the top of the property, which would abut the Hickory Lane, the residential street up there.
Yeah.
That's it.
So given that the neighbors there may have some comments about a industrial building, my suggestion would be a public hearing.
Absolutely.
I think that makes sense.
Yep.
Anybody want to make a motion for that?
A motion for a public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Clark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ryan, you want to let Keith know we're set there? IWC 2022-15, 125 Garter Road, proposed regulated activity within upland review for excavation and filling permit. I'm assuming, Chris,
Yes, Chris Glasser, Solar Engineering here on behalf of the applicant. Not going to run through the plans until you guys have determination, but just quickly, it is 125 Garter Road. It's located in the vicinity of Pepper Street, Cambridge Drive, the northern end of the site. We are coming forward with an excavation and fill permit on the site, and on behalf of that, we are having some disturbance in the upland review area for the construction of this stormwater basin. So again, we're pursuing an excavation and filling permit for the site, and we'll be disturbing in the upland review area to construct a stormwater basin and associated level spreader as shown right here by here. So my screen's not on. Rick, can you switch me out?
Yeah, I'm trying to, yeah, I got stuck here.
Waiting for the screen sharing here.
Got stuck, sorry.
I'm not sure that we need that at this point.
Essentially, it's an excavation filling permit, and there's a stormwater basin that will be within the upper area. Yes. Thanks, Rick. So this is the site. Garter Road runs here, east-west. And then this area will be part of the work area, and then the upland review area is this dash line. You can barely see it, but it runs right across the site like this. Wetlands are located on the northern portion of the property right here, and then we'll be disturbing the upland review area to construct this basin. Level spreader.
What's the total size of the property there?
Property is about 9.5 acres, 1.45, I believe.
Okay. I drove by there today and there was active quarry work going on. I understand from Rick that there's been some cease and desist orders.
That's correct, Mr.
Yes. I mean, there was a large piece of machinery chipping away at the stone at the top end of the site. And
Is this that Casella's property?
it's a Grasso, right? Now?
Yeah, Grasso purchased it recently. That's the old name, yes.
I apologize, I haven't been out there, so I can't speak to our client. See if we could put an end to it.
What's the proposed use?
For now, we're just going for an excavation and fill permit, but the end use will be industrial in the future.
And there was equipment stored up and over where my line of sight was, which to me put it back either against the wetlands or in the wetlands. And there were some very large piles. So I think I would consider this to be a disturbed site right now.
So I haven't been out there back in August or September, excuse me, and there's nothing in the wetlands. I can say that for certain.
Okay.
So there is a substantial existing wooded buffer from the wetlands upland. But you have been on the site, so I would expect you to know that. But yeah, they haven't pushed into the wetlands at this point.
I think given that this is a disturbed site, I have no idea what previous approvals were given for work on the site, but I think we need a public hearing and we probably need to look at having analysis done, wetlands infringement, things like that. So I would ask for a motion for a public hearing.
Does it make sense to do a site visit
Yes.
before we make that determination, or do we need to make the determination before?
Kind of got a determination now.
Yeah, we
The applicant is asking.
And then schedule accordingly.
I'll motion for a public hearing.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, it's unanimous? Very good.
Thank you all for your time.
Thanks. Okay. We did not complete any hearings tonight, so we do not have a deliberation session. I believe that takes us to general discussion and other. So that brings us to the first item on here is the selection of consultant for review at 141-201 Turkey Roost Road.
Okay, well,
Do I leave again?
I don't know. Does he abstain from
yeah, you should,
voting?
you should.
I thought you were going to discuss it. I'll leave if you want me.
It's been the proper protocol.
Okay, yep.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, staff solicited.
Wait a second, hold on a second. I also. No, okay, never mind.
Staff solicited for consultant firms. And Arcadis was the lone survivor. And they have provided the scope of services, which you all have a copy of, with a dollar amount of $8,500. The consultant is online tonight.
Consultant is Russ DiRenzo that assisted us on 64 Cambridge.
Yeah. And it should be noted, this is subject to the town council approval. I prepared a draft. Drafted. So you, Mr. Chairman, you should follow that because what you're doing is forwarding your recommendation to the town council and they make the final selection because this is a contract between the town of Monroe and the consultant. But I just wanted to confirm that staff solicited for down to one, and the consultant is ready to proceed, and he is here tonight to answer any general questions.
Any members have any questions for Mr. DiRenzo?
Questions for me?
I know that Mr. Lindstrom and Mr. Kelly were not here during the Cambridge time when Mr. DiRenzo assisted us, but he was very able at the time to assist.
Yeah, he hasn't done any consulting for it. We're just giving him the okay to do consulting on it.
This would be an authorization for the town council to fulfill the contract to hire him.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're just giving our approval. So what I will do is recommend a motion.
Yeah, Russ, are you muted?
He is muted. We want to give him a chance to present?
Well, I mean, I invited him tonight in case the commission had any questions.
Yes.
And you all know who he is.
Well, not these two
Oh,
gentlemen.
yeah, that's right, yeah.
So I think if he could say a few words.
I am also curious. The one thing that I am curious about is just in terms of this report, and it talks about environmental impact. That includes wildlife, presence of wildlife and those environments being disrupted. Would that be?
Are you looking at the Arcadis proposal? Okay, then probably we should get him to comment on that. Russell, are you there?
Russ?
He's on, but.
Hey, BJ, I got a question.
Yes, Clark.
That letter that we just got in our packet today or this week about the septic systems. So that hasn't been authorized by anything from the town or from the state?
Zero, negative.
That is correct.
Because that's a big problem then, because if they're going to they want to build all these houses up there, you can't just have a small septic for each one in case something,
Yeah, is this Russ?
or something.
Yeah, can you get on?
That's correct. There are they pointed out a number of areas that were incomplete in the application. And that's more cause for us to, of course, got the Southwest Conservation District to review that, and also for hiring Mr. DiRenzo or a consultant to review this much more closely, because those are very large impacts. So you caught some key issues. We're not actually hearing right now, so we need to shelve that to a point where we can do it during the hearing.
I didn't read it fully, did it? It didn't say that nowhere on the site can this septic system be installed, right? It's just saying where it's designed at the moment.
That's right.
I don't even think it doesn't even say that. I mean, my understanding was that for this type of setting, it would require state approval anyways, and they haven't applied for that. They've done nothing.
That is correct.
That's really what that was stating, right?
They did point out that logically from where it's located in the plan, it would drain into.
That was in the report that we got this evening, not in the letter from the health department.
Right.
Which,
So a great many issues, and that's where an experienced consultant like Mr. Dorenzo, is he there?
I just called him and he said he's ready to come on and
Okay.
I'm not picking him.
He has a lot of experience in this area that he can tell you about. He is I'm not gonna give his credentials because he'll hopefully do that for us very quickly here. But when we were going through the 64 Cambridge review for all the environmental issues, he was our consultant for that and had a lot of good input, very direct input to what was done.
yep. And for clarity as well, while we're waiting, I asked about the wildlife impacts, just because I know that in their application, they talked about box turtles. And I know that members of the public, although when they attended the public hearing, said relatively little about the water courses and the wetlands. They highlighted other concerns. They talked about other wildlife in the area and the impact that this would have on that.
Yeah, but we're not seeing you on the screen.
I did not see a lot when I walked through in terms of wildlife, but I assume it's more than turtles living in that space. So I just was curious.
That very low land at the bottom entrance to the property.
Yeah. All the way through, really. I mean, I saw a hawk.
I did.
I went in off of the pathways in a number of directions. Just assume that I'm curious to make it a point that there are box turtles. I have to believe that there's more, and I'm curious if this report.
I have you by the phone. And we'll take you up on the 26th.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Take care. Yeah, he's unable to connect.
Oh, okay.
So he'll be available on the 26th.
Okay. So maybe you can just give us a quick, he had two key credentials. He's chairman of the
Roxbury Inland Wetlands Commission, and he's the wetlands agent for the town of Bridgewater.
So
Recently, the Bridgewater had a proposal for a central sewage treatment facility, like this is being proposed. DEEP controls that. DEEP controlled it. The applicant went to DEEP first. The town has hired him. And when they go to the Inland Wetlands Commission, Inland Wetlands will have an issue with it. The state can approve it, but it's still subject to local jurisdiction.
So he's very experienced in our exact area. So, my recommendation is we make a motion on the recommendation of the selection of Arcadis as the consultant for the review of IWC application 2022-13 Quarry Ridge. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
And note that Clark has given an aye to that. Okay, so it is approved by our commission. Now you say, Rick, it goes to the town council.
Yeah, I'll do the process.
Okay. Next item. 64 Cambridge, 4 Independence Drive, report from NSAFE. I see we've got Bill online here. And Bill, if you want to.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine.
Yeah, hi, Bill.
Excellent. Hello, folks. Good evening. How are you all? Thanks for having me. I'd like to share my screen if I may.
Yeah, it's currently frozen. So what I'm going to do is call IT.
Does that mean somebody needs to release it? Is this one holding it?
No, this has happened. It's this.
The sharing. We'll get to you in just a second, Bill.
Okay, sure.
Screen share.
Some pretty pictures from today even.
Got the report, pictures.
Oh, hi, Ryan. Rick Schultz calling.
What's happening?
Yeah, my monitor is frozen. Want to,
On what, for Zoom or?
yeah, for the meeting, yeah. It's Zoom, yes.
All right, stand by.
Thank you again for taking the call.
No problem. Let's see.
It's the shared content.
Yeah, let me, just gotta log in my remote software here.
Up there.
Yeah, print out the picture and hold it in front of the camera.
That's right.
Yeah, that is not off.
I know.
You tried just doing something, stop sharing. Oops.
Did something there.
That's a new one.
Yeah, it's a new one for me too.
Yeah, the only thing I can really do is exit the meeting and rejoin. I don't know if that's gonna.
Mr. Chairman, what's the preference? IT is saying to exit the meeting and rejoin, or just do the vocal with Bill and not sharing.
Well, I think in the interest of time, we should move ahead with letting Bill do it without the pictures.
Understand, Bill, we can't share for you to do
We can
any.
share the screen. We can share the screen.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. So yeah, the screen is shared right now.
But he's remote, though. Is it unfrozen then?
No, it's still frozen. Yeah.
Well, this your content part is still where on the pad. I can't get out of that, but I can share the screen and stop sharing the screen. So if you need to share the screen, you can do that.
All right, Bill, are you ready? Are you sharing for Bill?
Bill needs to share the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, because I just had the laptop here share the screen. Okay, so, oh yeah, because you gotta give him permission.
Yeah, that is correct.
Looks like we'll have it here, Bill.
Yeah, sounds like it could. You just give me permission if you can, and
Yeah, and on my end, Bill, it's frozen.
Yeah, let's see if I can. Yeah, it's only this little box. I can probably try to exit the meeting and rejoin the meeting, and then that hopefully should fix it. What's your take? What do you want to do, Rick?
No, the chairman is more inclined just to let him talk
Yeah.
instead of any further delays, but thank you.
how about I get started and so I get started in the meantime?
I'll take a look at it.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll get started, and if you can work something out in the meantime, that would be great. All
Well,
right.
oh,
Now we're back to a person. Okay, I'll get started. Probably we'll talk about four topics, the four areas that NShape is looking at, which include the wetland, the quarry fill, what we'll call the Stratford pile, but maybe we should talk about renaming that, and then also off-site fill. So first, the probably most important to you folks is the wetland. And over the course of the summer, they pumped about 164,000 gallons of water from that well up into the wetland. That was really July through August. Through September, however, the well wasn't really functioning all the time. First, they kind of broke it as they were doing some grading. And then I believe there might be some well issues. And I know I was able to speak with Arnold and Stewart on site today about that. Arnold, is Arnold Karp on the line? Looks like
Yes.
He wants to give us an update on that pump. That would be great.
Go ahead, Arnold. Identify yourself, please.
Arnold Karp, one of the owners of 64 Cambridge. I missed what Bill had asked. I heard we were talking about pumping.
Yeah, you're talking about the well and
Yeah, so we discovered with Bill's help that we have a little bit of a well issue. The problem is our well person has COVID and probably can't give us a diagnosis if it is the pump or one of the pieces, probably till Monday because he is under quarantine. He has told Stuart that as soon as he is allowed to leave the house, we are number 2 on his list. So we should have this resolved, certainly by the middle of next week. It may just be that the pump, pumping as many gallons as it has, may need to be replaced. We are not 100% sure either way, but Bill and I will stay on that to make sure that we're pumping again.
All right. And how long has that pump been failing?
I was out of town last week, but I think from what Bill's report has indicated, the week before they hit it with an excavator, so they had to patch it. So I think we've probably missed 6 or 7 days. Bill, can you give me a defined period?
It's been longer than that. I know it's in the last several visits, it hasn't been, it seems like it goes up, but then it's been shutting off. But the good news is actually there's a fair amount of rain in September and it looks like it's in good condition. So that kind of bought us some time to address the well, look at the well and make sure the thing is up and running and just, providing, of course, as fall comes along, we're going to have more water anyway. Yeah. So, we just need to stay on top and make sure.
Yeah, 1.5 to 2 tomorrow.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, 1.5 to 2 inches tomorrow.
Yeah, so we'll have a fair amount of rain to keep things hydrated there.
So we've pumped a lot of water there. What impact do you see on the wetlands?
Well, it's I don't know if I'm not measuring anything specifically. Making visual observations, and my observations are it looks as good as any wetland that I've walked through in Connecticut. And I walk through them probably twice a day. I walk my dog down the Farmington Canal path through the wetland area. And frankly, they don't look much different. The areas up here, I was there today. I'll show you if I could show pictures. I could show the areas of the 5 zones where the valves are to time the flow to each of the 5 zones, and then also give that well some downtime. So hopefully we can get back on that system. And those zones are all generally moist. I'll call them moist, never really wet. After a rain, of course, they're wet. But every time I'm up there, which is typically once a week, they've all been moist. And again, they look about like every other wetland that I see as I hike through the woods all summer. It was very dry for a while there, but during that period, it was pumping. So it didn't seem to be overly stressed. So I do think, now is a good opportunity. We're going to have some rain. You'll have some natural moisture, but we've got to get back on that well and make sure it's operational when we need it. Any other questions about wetlands? Or should I move on to other topics?
Yeah, why don't you move on?
Okay. The quarry fill, exciting news. They reached that elevation of 411 as of a few weeks ago now. It's about September 21st. And that's been surveyed and confirmed really by the end of September. They confirmed everywhere they are at elevation 411. In fact, today down on the quarry, they would mark on the side of the quarry elevation first 406 and then 408 and then 410. And they were just, right in orange paint on the quarry walls. Well, now they're up to 416, 418, and 420. So they've added that much fill over the course of the summer. And now that they're above elevation 411, above that theoretical groundwater elevation, they're able to start using the Stratford pile. And again, as I'm learning more about that, I'm learning the Stratford pile is probably not the best name for it. Maybe only a small part of that pile is actually the old Stratford High School. Other material in there includes concrete that came right from the O&G plant in Stamford and somewhere else, I believe. So it's really virgin material. maybe I'll jump into where they're at in terms of the filling. So again, I'm kind of looking at these pictures, and I've got a bunch of nice shots that I take every week. I go out there and I take pictures from the western rim of the quarry from the same perspective. So I've got a series of shots starting September 1st, and it just shows, if I could animate them, you could see that fill rising up. And then on October 6th, they've actually started working into it, and I'll call it, just for the sake of convenience, the Stratford pile. As you may recall, that's that large pile to the south of the quarry pit. And that's been, it's been investigated previously. It was part of the approvals. And again, part of the approvals, one of the reasons I'm speaking to you is because I'm out there to inspect the material as they're working that now. As they're mining into that big pile, they're sorting through the material. They're using separators and crushers and so on. A lot of it is concrete that needs to be crushed. And then it's going through a sorter and getting separated into 3-inch minus material and then dumped up into piles, which they can then spread with bulldozers. So the material looks good. It looks like good construction material. It's compacting well. So I'm looking, as they're digging into the pile, I'm up there every time I'm going out, which is now twice a week, not just once a week, for the course of digging of this, excavating into this pile, and looking at the material as it's exposed and as it's being processed. And been also working with Arnold and his team out there to make sure that we all kind of have our eyes open. Like I said, the pile has been tested, to good results. It all looked like it was clean. It's a big pile. Just everybody has their eyes on it now to make sure that we're not starting to process material that nobody wants out there. Again, it meets all the standards now, the state standards. We just want to make sure it remains that way. And I know Arnold and his team are on that as well. So Arnold, I think you guys are processing 1,000 yards a day or a couple thousand yards a day. And I think your goal, your hope is that by early next year, you'll be through this pile. It'll have been spread largely into the quarry to the north and then also to the south of the current pile, where you're looking to really start balancing out the topography of the site, but also start grading it from west to east so it can control the water, the storm water as it rains. If you want to push it off to the eastern side of the site, really, where you can get it down to your approved detention basins and control the water. So that's my understanding of the plan for the near term, and is to focus on this pile and spread it around and start balancing the site. Is that correct, Arnold?
Yes.
Okay. And then you don't really plan, the last item on really my agenda was imported fill. And it's on the record that some material came in from a Grasso site nearby. There was some discussion of the material tested okay chemically, but I understand some of it was not acceptable geotechnically, structurally, for fill under a building. So the material is okay to use on site, but not structurally going to use that upon the banks perhaps of the quarry in areas that are going to be vegetated, where the organic material of that fill would be good for that vegetation and to stabilize the banks. Is that correct as well?
Yes.
Okay, Bill, it probably is worth discussing here. You made this presentation last week to Planning and Zoning, as I understand, and they had raised some concerns about the pile, the Stratford pile, and you had some comments on how you're handling that. I bring this up because there was an article about the Planning and Zoning meeting in the Monroe Sun, a lot of statements made, a lot of concerns. So what would you advise going ahead as far as monitoring versus testing?
Well, I've done my homework on the work that's been done, and a fair amount of work has been done. My understanding is that pile's about 100,000 cubic yards. There was testing done, I think, at the behest of the Southwest District and others in town. And I believe there were 13 or so samples. And actually, I was able to go back and between the reports and some of the aerial photography and confirm for my sake and to share with you folks that it looked like they were in the right neighborhood, at least, as far as the testing. They tested the full depth to depths of 43 feet, which is, and down to refusal, which it was meant and interpreted to mean the existing bedrock there. So there's a fair amount of data out there, and the data was all favorable. It said, so, example, they tested for volatile organic compounds, things you might find in gasoline or in solvents, and they didn't find any. They tested for PCBs, and they didn't find any, which is really important. That can be a big headache. PCBs have a very special regulatory hell, pardon the term. They've tested for metals. They detect a little bit of lead. Of course, metals are naturally occurring. They did some additional testing for the lead to confirm that it wasn't really a source of pollution, and were able to, the previous consultant was able to say, yeah, we did the testing and we did some statistics and have determined this isn't a real source of contamination. So based on that data, we went in, NSAFE came into working with the town based on the understanding that the pile had been pretty well tested. And there was also been a process for vetting the material coming on site. It was all well documented what could brought to the site and when. So there was a good record there. There was a fairly good amount of analytical data. And our understanding was the town was interested in just having kind of another eye, a sanity check, and experienced eyes. So you hired licensed environmental professionals, such as myself. My colleague Rob McCarthy and I are both professional engineers and licensed environmental professionals. And I said at the P&Z meeting, I'm very experienced at looking at dirt in a lot of different settings. I would call this the Stratford pile. I actually have experience working on material on behalf of DEP. We excavated some of the material from Stratford and replaced it at the Raymark site. As you may recall that process, back in the 90s and 2000s, and still continuing. So I actually do have experience looking at this kind of material. So our objective is to supplement the analytical data that we have with visual inspections and what I've called the sniff test. And I don't want to oversell that. No, I can't detect every chemical out there, but you get a pretty good idea. If there's petroleum contamination, we're going to smell it. If there's chlorinated solvent contamination, you're going to smell it. At what levels? I can't. I'm not a laboratory, so I can't give you that kind of data. But our thinking, and I've talked with BJ and with Rick about this, and my colleague Rob McCarthy, is that with the analytical data and with inspections, so at least twice a week, I will be out there, or one of my colleagues will be out there, and with the cooperation of Arnold and his team, we can make sure that there's nothing that comes out of this pile, that's really going to cause a problem on site. We just said we have to keep our eyes open. It's a large pile, it's brought in over a period of time. They're going to be working at it over a period of time. And, I think talking with Rick and with BJ, we're comfortable that with the analytical data and the process we have for inspection, that we can have pretty good quality control over that pile.
I assume you're testing.
That end,
Can you hear me?
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I assume you're testing for asbestos.
I'm not aware of testing for asbestos. I am observing for anything that looks, because I've actually seen that in some of the materials. And when you look at any of the Raymark materials online, the EPA has, there are photographs of fill that has asbestos, has brake linings in it. That is a key. So the previous testing, I can't speak to the rationale, except that it was done, I know, in response to comments. So based on the data that I've seen and our process for inspection, and frankly, and we have, and we've worked this out. We've met with Arnold, and in fact, we've worked with Rick and with BJ on language that we want to share with Arnold, just, as a reminder that we're all, in a way, a team trying to make sure this project moves forward successfully and without creating problems. So we all need to keep our eyes open on the material and be responsible for what goes out there. And then
Those VC
can process material. So
those VCT tiles were used, in older buildings and older schools. And you can't miss that stuff.
Yeah, also, one term of art, if you will, that we use with the Connecticut DEP is multiple lines of evidence. So in the past few days, weeks really, I've been doing more homework and looking at, the process. The material came, a lot of this material reportedly came from the Stratford High School. which was done, this demolition was done in 2018 and 19, during a period when the process was very well established and monitored. State money, a great deal of state money went into the demolition. The state was watching this with their monitors and so on. It was also, I know the project was managed by a construction manager, professional construction manager named Turner Construction. They're the big boys, in the business, in the construction business. Things don't just slide like they used to, back in the old days of the Wild West, the 70s and 80s, frankly, and way before that. That stuff, the regulations were coming in the 70s and 80s and things were starting to get under control. These days, there are very well-controlled processes for the demolition of structures. First, of course, for the pre-demolition inspection and then abatement of lead-based paint, of asbestos. And, those are the two main players really with demolition, and PCBs, which of course can be in paints and caulks. So I'm, with my experience, pretty comfortable with that process, that there's been a lot of eyes on this material through its history. But, of course, I can't guarantee any of this, but that's what we can do is use our due diligence and use our experience to inspect the material and try to stay on top of it and, work with you folks to try to address your concerns. But I do think that, the combination of analytical data and inspections can give us all a pretty good comfort level about the quality of the material.
What was the product you found that wasn't suitable for under building foundations? Is it clay brick?
Well, no, I understand it was organic material. So it was like topsoil. Topsoil is not good structural material. It's good for grass. It's good for growing things, but it's not good for putting buildings on. So if topsoil ends up in the pile, then you end up with too much organic material, and then it's not really suitable for building on. But it's great for putting vegetation into.
So if I may, Bill, thanks for that clarification. As long as things continue to be clean through the observation process, you see no reason to do any additional testing unless something is found. Would you say that's correct?
I think that's a reasonable approach. This whole thing there's risk management decisions that have to be made. Frankly, I can't make those for the town or for Arnold or for anybody. But I do think, and this process has been vetted. This process has been discussed for years.
Okay, let me just clarify for the commission here. There was no testing in the contract with NSAFE, no additional testing. So it's monitoring. So if additional testing becomes necessary, it's up to us to manage that process of the contracting.
Can I just ask about that? Just I want to clarify
Sure.
what you just said.
Sure.
Are we have anything to do with the material that they're processing now that he's over 411? Or I thought that was planning and zoning.
It is planning and zoning.
Right. So it has no.
This is just.
This is information. Information. Be informed.
But the contract came through inland wetlands, right?
wasn't also P&Z?
Yeah, well, you took the lead on it. Your focus was the wetland restoration, so.
Right, but they're the ones that would request any further testing, not us.
And
Because we're like outside of the first part. I'm saying, but also asking for clarification. But outside of his first report on the wetlands, first part of his report, that's what concerns our approval for the remediation. The rest of the stuff now falls under what planning and zoning approved.
correct. That's kind of how the proposal broke down, yes.
Right. So just so we're clarifying, we can't really tell them, I don't think, that we want more testing on that material. I think it has to come from P and Z.
Well, and we're hearing.
No, you're absolutely correct, and it was brought up by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Which is why we're talking about it here.
It's okay.
We just have to come back through us to.
We want both commissions that have issued permits to know what's going on.
So at this point.
Because this is moving forward in a positive way.
To make it easier, can't we just turn this over to planning and zoning?
Oh, no, we are. This is just for.
Right. Well, I'm just trying to make sure that, what you're trying to accomplish is proper. If we're the what do you call it? The governing body of the contract, so to speak, but, or the host, I don't know what the word is, I can't think of it. Maybe we could just transfer it to them, still get the reports on the wetlands. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, it's
it
not.
seems silly to go from them to request us to change something.
No, we're not doing.
Custodial, I meant, custodial of the
Yeah.
contract.
Right. So, right, everybody needs to be fully informed of where we're at.
Right, of course.
And since it hit the news,
And everyone's in full compliance, so that everything's been good. And everyone's very appreciative of Mr. Carp, so.
And Rick, if I can have a minute with just besides last week, which is the first week of I've been out, not at the site at least once or twice weekly. I was away. I've got lots of eyes. We've got again, this pile was gone through significantly when we bought the property. Then when we went through with you guys, as far as the approvals, if there's anything that, isn't correct, again, we're always held to a standard much higher than anything else in town. And I actually almost don't mind that, because at the end of the day, I'm either going to have to sell or develop this piece. And whoever I sell it to or develop myself, I'm not going to put a building on a contaminated site. Everything is tested clean. Everything has looked clean. Anything that's been a concern, and we had material that didn't meet, it was fine. It was clean dirt, but it wasn't structural in nature. Has gone to part of that a building will never sit on. But I can tell you that this project has more eyes on it, not only Bill, but remember, I have several millions of dollars of my own money tied up in this. So I haven't, I missed last week's P&Z meeting, and I did not catch the article in the Monroe paper. But again, I think innuendo is far greater than the truth with this. Bill, if he had the pictures, would show you large pieces of concrete. And that's what came out of Stratford High School, mixed with a large amount of stone dust. And that was so that they could back the trucks up over it. I have actually been pleasantly surprised that there's as much stone dust and not, gigantic pieces of concrete with rebar. But right now we have been crushing that and taking the rebar out. So I would say that we're on time, on schedule, and making sure that nothing escapes, because again, I'm not looking to build to clean up a site and then have a problem with it.
okay. Very good. So let's move on if there's no more questions of Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Everybody informed?
I actually have, I have to take some medicine at a certain time. So I'm wondering if we can go through anything else that I might need to input on, and then I could let them know.
We have only one item left. That's a request for bond release.
I don't need to be there for that.
I think you can be excused on that.
What about the next meeting? We're having a meeting in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the appointment, Mr. Chapman retires Friday. So we need to entertain a motion to appoint Rick Schultz as acting wetlands agent.
Do we have a motion?
Oh, right now? Oh,
Yeah, before
make a
you.
motion to make,
Brian, you want a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? All
Aye.
right. I think Keith, that lets you off.
Great. And then, what about the new, at the next meeting, the new agent?
Yeah, I'll be able to report on that. She hasn't told her employer yet. She doesn't want any public announcement.
All right, so the last item tonight is request for bond release, 4 Main Street, 5 Victoria Drive, 263 East Village Road. I have here in front of me the request letter. I have the approval by the town of Monroe that says the town recommends the release. It looks like the Plantings. Quantity and health of remediation plantings are good. I see,
One of those dated. Like the plantings.
let's see,
But you have a letter from a,
19th inspection report is September 18th of this year. And the town,
that was today.
that was today. Joe Chapman went out and did the inspection.
It was inspected as well.
Yeah. So it appears that everything is in order to release the bond.
Is there an as-built stating that everything matches what was originally proposed?
Yes, that was all submitted to staff
Yeah.
and certification.
There is a plan. Has been reviewed, as-built, as compared to the original plan.
Yeah. Remember, there was a modification of the plantings and then you wanted certification from a landscape architect, which you have.
Yeah. So all things appear to be in order for that.
These are two separate items, Mr. Chairman.
It was that Stephen Danzer? Yeah, Stephen Danzer did this report. So I have no evidence here that says we should not. We answered everyone's questions on it.
Yeah, so you're saying, Rick, you just said there were two separate items? Are there?
Yeah, 4 Main Street and 5 Victoria Drive is a separate bond. And 263 East Village.
Yeah.
Sorry, the first two were tied together?
Yes.
4 Main Street and 5 Victoria Drive were part of the same.
Right.
Is I don't quite understand why the East Village Road was in there. Is that their,
No, the East Village Road's a separate bond request.
There's two separate.
well, there's two.
Two separate, yeah.
Okay.
Two separate, yeah, that's what's going on.
Application, all of the,
This is 4 Main Street and 5.
everything that you received the letter on and that you've spoken to, Rick, I'm sorry, BJ, is for the 4 Main Street.
Correct. Correct. And here is the other one underneath. So,
And both of them have been.
well, let's do one at a time to approve them.
So right now, we're still discussing 4 Main Street, 5 Victoria Drive.
Thank you. Yes.
So you're saying we've done our inspection, they've provided us an as-built.
And
And
Joe
you
Chapman
have
is
confirmation from the landscape,
Stephen Danzer, the landscape architect.
Right, okay.
So all things should be in order. So do I have a motion to,
Make a motion that we release the bond.
we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote is unanimous. That motion was from Clark Gingras, who is remote. Okay, let's take a look at the second one here. Rick, I'm not familiar with this.
yeah, that's just a
This looks residential,
review area. It was residential, it's very minor.
5,000.
It was plantings,
Okay,
small bond.
small bond. This is a copy of the copies of the check. But we have Joe Chapman. Staff has inspected 263 East Village Road and recommends the release of the 5,000 site bond as all improvements have been completed in accordance with the approved site plan.
Was that the one where the state came in or something? They were putting in culverts?
Call this one.
Yeah, I don't know the background because it was before my time, but it's residential, yeah.
Yeah. Is that 02? Is that from 2002?
Yeah, this goes back a long time ago.
Before our time.
Some homeowners wait.
Yeah, okay. So
That's all been inspected, everything's.
Joe signed off on it. So I don't see any
Make a
reason.
motion, we release the bond.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. We release the bond
20 years.
and we appointed our interim wetlands agent. We do not have minutes. We're going to catch up on minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe we are at adjournment.
Make
We
a
have a-
motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.